All right, welcome to the internet. Today we're going to be showing you how to create an app or an integration or a plugin for high level. And if you're not sure what high level is, if you're interested in building plugins but you're not sure high level is, I'll leave a little blurb in the description below so you can get up to speed. Now, in this video, we're going to be covering a lot. I'm not going to show you my title ideas. You'll already know what the title is. But we're going to go over what high level apps actually are, how do you build one, why should you build one, and then every single step that's involved in creating one. So let's get started. So here we are in my high level agency account, and this is the app marketplace. And I just want to show you, this is what it looks like if you've never been on this page. You can see basically all these apps are integrations made by other companies that are sold. So a lot of them will say free, but they'll be paid. Obviously makes their own money other ways. And then if you go paid, then you can see apps that are, I guess none of them are paid up front, but they'll have like a free trial and then payment through there. So essentially the idea with making an app through this is that you're a barnacle on a whale's back. So if we think about Shopify apps, Chrome plugins, WordPress plugins, all these are the same type of idea. You're building an app for an already successful platform, and as that platform grows, your app is also going to grow without you having to do extra work, just because more people are looking at the App Store. And I mean, the crazy thing about that is, like, Chrome extensions, you might have heard, they can be a crazy business. Like, dude, Honey, $4 billion, Grammarly raised at $1 billion valuation. I mean, these companies can get absolutely fucking massive, and they're just building on top of another platform. These were also indie developers, okay? So I'm going to show you how to build an app like that. And I'm also going to tell you why you should build a high-level plugin and not a WordPress plugin, Chrome, or Shopify plugin, all right? And firstly, you can see here, it's extremely low competition. So if we go, I'm just going to show you an example of that. If we go into this app marketplace, one thing that high level doesn't have at the time of recording this is call summaries. So when you finish a call, even if it's recorded, they do have the option to enable a transcript, so that a transcript will show up in the conversation of the call, but they don't offer a summary. So you have to read through the whole transcript or like skim it or listen to the call to know what actually happened, or you have to take notes. Summaries are an absolute no-brainer, but high level doesn't have it because high level is a Swiss Army knife. It's not very good at anything, but it has a lot of different tools built in. So what we're going to do is we're just going to search for AI call summaries, and there's only one app, and in fact this app is my app that I actually built, and I'm going to be taking it off here for a minute because I created a new version that I'm waiting to get reviewed, but that's besides the point. The point is that even though there's an extremely low-hanging fruit problem, it's pretty easy to solve, and it's a big problem. There's only one app, and I'm literally the creator of the app. There's only one app, like, at least on the App Store. Another reason to build for high level is, look at this. So I don't know exactly how accurate this is, but over a 2-year span, they saw a revenue growth of 1,600%, which is absolutely mind-boggling. And they're just growing, like, so fucking quickly. Like, it's insane, okay? So if you're on this rocket ship, then the platform is going to be growing. You're going to be growing along with it. And because there's so many users and so few apps, the demand is so much higher. Okay, and then finally, the final reason why I think building Go High Level apps is good is that it's mostly agency owners and business owners, and they have very little cost sensitivity. So if you think about like trying to sell like a notes app or some app for consumers, you're gonna struggle charging more than like $10 a month. Whereas with businesses, you can charge easily $100 a month, and as long as you're like actually providing some value, they're totally happy to pay for that because they're making, you know, way more than that in revenue, and it's gonna be worth it to them. Okay, so there's two ways to build an app for high level. The first way assumes you want to build and sell an app like I've done. And then the second is if you just want to create like a personal integration. I'll show you how you can do that at the end. But for the most of this video, we're going to be talking about how you can build and sell an app on high level. And I also want to address why am I talking about this? Because I've built an app on high level. I'm making money from it. Please don't copy me. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure, but I am shutting down my app. I have a video that I previously made about why I'm stopping running it, and it's not related to the platform, it's related to the choices I made when building it, so you can go watch that if you want some advice on kind of crafting your idea. But yeah, I'm not really sure why I'm creating this video. It might add more competition, but my hope is that if you're watching this video and you don't want to do all this shit that I'm showing you, maybe you'll hire me to do something cool, all right? If it's boring, maybe don't bother reaching out, but if it's cool, you can reach out and I might be able to help you out with that. So, anyways, and I don't have anything to sell you, all right? I'll just make that clear. The little Hormozy disclaimer, I have nothing to sell you. I have nothing to sell you. That was my Trump impression. All right. So first thing is let's create our app for high level. So we'll go to marketplace.gohighlevel.com. And actually, why don't I just do this in an incognito tab, marketplace.gohighlevel.com. And let's see. So it should take us to a login page. Yeah, okay. So we'll do sign up, and then you'll just create an account. And it's relatively straightforward. I'm just going to go to my own account. But you should end up on a dashboard page much like this, where you can see your apps and installs and all this stuff. Now, yeah, the next step would be to create an app. So we'll just hit create an app, and I'm just going to name it demo app because I don't know what it's going to do. And the distribution type, you can only select this once. It's not a big deal if you're building a new app because you can easily switch things over if you mess it up. But you want to make sure you get this stuff correct. App type can be changed later, but keep it private at first so it doesn't have to be published. Private means you can test as fast as you want. Public means it has to be reviewed every time you publish it, which it's not worth it until you're done with the app. And for agency and sub-account distribution. So sub-account means obviously like sub-account locations. So if it's a sub-account app, then it can only be installed at the sub-account level. Like there's a marketplace, there's an app marketplace specifically for sub-accounts. So I'll pull that up. Then we can go this and we can see these are the apps for sub-accounts. So you could set it up that way, and that made it go away. So you could set it up with just sub-accounts. The agency is what I'm going to kind of advocate for. This is how I built my app. That means that it can be installed by the agency owner, who's going to probably be making more revenue than the sub-accounts and actually be interested in installing apps. So you create the app for the agency, and you want to make sure you have sub-account enabled as well, because what this does is it allows you to interact with the sub-accounts. And install it on the multiple sub-accounts. Let me try to see if I can show you what I mean. So if we go to App Marketplace, installed apps, then we'll go to this app. Actually, why don't we go to this one? Because I don't really care about messing up my install. So we'll add, and then this is an agency and sub-account account, and we can select as many accounts as we want. And we can install this app onto those accounts. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. I mean, hopefully that makes sense. Essentially, sub-account is only sub-account, agency and sub-account is both, and then agency is pretty much useless. I haven't really experimented with it, but you know, you want your app to interact with the actual CRM and not just the agency page. All right, so we'll do agency and sub-account for this app, and then we'll name it again, demo app, and hit create app. The white label thing, just leave it as white label. That's going to get you the most success over time. And now that our app is created, now it's time to set our app permissions. Okay, so I'm going to head over to app.stoplight. Okay, so here it is. So it's highlevel.stoplight.io, and this is going to be our API documentation for how to use high level. Okay. And this, you're going to be spending a lot of time in here when you first get started. So the most important thing is, fuck off. When we're looking at the app, we need to choose what permissions we actually want this app to be able to use. So if we go down, they just changed up this this page, and they made it way fucking worse. is way more confusing. All right, hang on. All right, holy shit, dude. It's under advanced settings and auth, which is not advanced because it's literally something you need to do with every app. But yeah, this is where we're going to start out. So with scopes, this is all the things you can do. So you can create invoices, you can read the invoices, you can look at the businesses, which is like kind of like an opportunity in high level if you're familiar with that, but it's a business. Calendars, locations, funnels, payments, products, a lot of this stuff. So you can basically do anything here, okay? But if you're planning on distributing an app, then you want to make sure that you actually use just the permissions that you need, because otherwise it's going to have like a huge long list here and people are going to be sketched out when they go to download it. So as we can see, this is my app. These are all the permissions that I actually needed. And at this point, it's a good idea to kind of know like what you want your app to do. So let's say we want our app to do call summaries. So we want the app to listen to phone calls and then like put a note in the contact section once the phone call is done. So let's go after the note thing first. So we'll need to create a note, and if we see, this is the API call that we can use to create a note, and we'll see that the URL here is /contacts/contact ID/notes. Now this is important, so we'll just copy this, and now we can go over to the page that's scopes. Scopes. And then this will show us what we need to do. So if we do /contacts/ okay. So on this page we did contact/ and we can see under contacts.readOnly is contacts/contact ID/notes. But we actually want to be able to create a note, and so that would be under contacts write, because these are all GET requests, and the one that we were looking at I think was a PUT request or post. So we would come over to this and we would find /contact ID/notes. Okay, so it was post contacts contact ID notes. This is exactly the same as that one we were looking at just a second ago, okay? And then if we look at the scope, it's contacts.write. So we'll come over to our app and we'll select contacts.write. Okay, perfect. And then I'm just going to show you again. So we'll see post, and this is exactly what we're looking at, okay? This bold part, it's a post to this bold part, and that means we're under contacts.write. So hopefully that makes sense. You basically, at this point, you need to figure out what your app actually needs to do and scope out your app to do that. But for the time being, all I'm going to do is I'm literally going to select every single scope just because fuck it. Holy shit, dude. Look at how many scopes this is. This is insane. Alright, and then after we've selected our scopes, then we're going to type in here google.com. And I'll show you exactly why we're doing this. I just need to make sure that all these scopes save because it took so long to type them in. So you'll add it, you'll hit save, and then after you hit save, you have to come back and select it and then hit save. Okay, so we are basically good to go for the setup of this app. So now what we're going to do is we're going to test out this app, and I just want to show you exactly how the installation works. So the reason we put google.com in here is that every time the app is installed, it's going to redirect that user to this URL, and it's going to put a little parameter in the URL that we can use to install the app. So I'll show you exactly what I mean. So let's go to my apps and let's find demo app. And what we want is we want this app ID. So I'm just going to take a screenshot of that and then head over to my Finder and my downloads and take a look at this and copy that. Okay. So then what we can do is we can go to this URL. So it's going to be https app.gohighlevel.com/integration, not shuns, integration. and then your app ID. And when we hit enter, then we'll land on the app page. It should say demo app right here. And we can see all these permissions. Holy fuck, dude. All right. So now I'm going to hit install and we'll see exactly what happens. So I'll just do select all accounts. It really doesn't matter. Oh, wait. All right, so that didn't work. I'm thinking we need to create a client key. So let's go add, and then we'll want to copy these values. I mean, to be honest, well, okay. The client ID is public. The client secret should be secret. Just label that. So you really only need to copy the secret value, but you don't want to share it with someone. So once we do that, I'm thinking that'll keep it from installing. So then we should be able to install it again if we come back to this page. Okay, so let me retry that. Okay, so there it worked. So yeah, I mean, just make sure that when you create the app, you also create your a client key, because it won't be able to install without the client key. And we'll need that for what we're about to do. So we'll see we're on Google, and if we open up the URL bar, we can see that now we're not on google.com, or we are on google.com, but there's also this code parameter. So this is a search parameter, I believe they're called, where it has a question mark and then it'll say code, or like, value, or whatever the key is, and then it'll say equals, and this is our installation code. So we're going to copy this, and we're going to head back over to the API documentation. And the cool thing about this page is they let you test the APIs right in the on the website. So the first thing we want to do is we want to exchange this code to get our access tokens, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So we'll come over to, wait, hang on. Okay, so we come to OAuth 2.0 and get access token. And essentially what this does is it allows us to turn that token, this code, into an access token, which is how we'll access the API. So let's go here and we'll do client ID. So remember that was this, our client app ID. So that's going to be this. And then the client secret was this one. So we'll copy that. And then the grant type is going to be the authorization code. So that's what we get when we install the app. And then I'm just going to copy this again and come back here and send an API request. Oh, okay, good thing I missed a couple. Dude, their API is so annoying sometimes. All right, so we'll keep the code. User type. Oh yeah, this is important. User type is going to be company because that's where the app was installed. And I believe that's all we need. Okay. So now it's going to give us this, and I'm just going to put this in the in my Notion just so we have it, because this is our access information. So the access token is what's going to allow us to use the API on behalf of this company. Refresh token is we need to refresh the access token every 24 hours. And then the scope is just, what the app has as the scope. User type is company, company ID, user ID. Now, there's a couple things that we need to do once we have this information. So one thing is to get company information. Another thing is to refresh the tokens. Eventually, I'll show you how to do that. And then the last thing is to get the installed companies, where this app is installed. Because we haven't gotten a list of where I installed the app yet. So basically, to refresh the tokens, let me show you that first. So we'll do get access token. It's the same API endpoint, but this time we'll keep that the same, but we'll do refresh token as the grant type. We're not going to send a code. Just make sure that's deleted. We are going to send a refresh token. So let's come back here and let's copy this. This is a fat ass code. Damn it! All right, let's try that again. No way, dude. Oh. All right, I kind of got it to work. I just double clicked the whole line. So we'll just copy that. We'll paste that in. Get rid of the things around there. And then user type company and send API request. And as you can see, we got back new information. So just to show that, if you watch the access token, it's going to change. Well, I guess it doesn't look like it changed a lot, but it does change. It sends you a new access token. So every 24 hours, exactly 86,399 seconds, your token is going to expire. You want to make sure that you are refreshing this access token I'd usually do it every hour. I look at all the locations where it's installed, see if an access token is about to expire, and then I use the refresh token to refresh it every hour so that if it fails once, it's going to be fine. But yeah, that's pretty important, is refreshing your access token. Now, the next thing we probably want to do is getting a list of installed token apps, because we saw that we installed that app on every single one of my locations. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down to get location where app is installed. And this should give us all the locations, except it just says location. But this is what I'm using my app to do it. So what do we need? We need the app ID and the company ID. So thankfully, I have my company ID. Actually, yeah, it should just be right here. Yeah, company ID. So that's from that request earlier. And then the app ID is going to be this value up here. If you know a better way to get that than what I did, screenshotting it, just let me know. Okay, so app ID is going to be that, is installed. We're looking for locations where is installed is true. The limit, I'm going to put it as that. And then on trial, you can should be able to leave all of this stuff blank. Let's see. All right, hang on. And I actually just found that this is why their API documentation fucking is stupid, because we see that, first of all, app ID, why is it using app ID and not client ID like the other one did? Because app ID is harder to get. But regardless, it says no authorization header found. But if you look at this, none of this says that it doesn't even say you need authorization. But if we look at the app that I built, this is the back end, we can see that for our API call, we're using an authorization header to like get that value. So it doesn't tell you, but you actually need authorization. So anyways, we're going to be using this free tool called Postman to test this out instead. So we'll do get, and then looks like there's a new line there. So we'll do a get request to this ID or this address. And then we're going to make sure that our API version, or it has to be version, or actually I'll just copy it from my code. So we'll do headers are going to be version is going to have to be this, so 21, and then accept, actually that should go as default. Authorization is going to be bearer, and then we'll go back, we'll get the access token, and then we'll get rid of that and all this formatting. So essentially what you do is, yeah, okay, so there's a space there. So if you look at this code, we have bearer and then access token. So the access token just goes right after the word bearer. If you don't do it like this, it doesn't work. It's kind of weird, but it's fine. And then let's see what the query parameters are. So I guess it does tell you in the documentation that you need to have the query parameters there. And we can see that it's also putting that in. This is the same thing as how the code worked. It goes question mark limit, so key is limit, is equal to 1 million, 1 billion, whatever. And then it uses an and symbol for all the others after that. So that's how we have it set up right here. So let's put that in here. So query params. So first off, we have the company ID. So let's put that. Company ID is going to be this one. And then we'll come back here, put that there. And then we also need the app ID, right? And then that was this one. And then finally we need the limit. Oh, and okay, so we'll do limit is 1 billion, and then come back here, is installed equals true. So let's test that out. Okay, perfect. So yeah, I mean, the documentation is not perfect, so you might need to use Postman for some of these things, but essentially we're ending up with a list of all the installed locations. And if we come back to this code that I was showing you, what we're doing is after an install is processed, we're sending it to this workflow, which is getting a list of all the installed locations, and then it's batch running a function that installs each location individually. And the way we do that is we use another API call to get the access for that token specifically. So each location, each company has its own access token, and then you have to go down to each location and get access to that. So I'll show you that. But then we're getting a little bit of location info and then upserting that location into the database. And let me just show you how you get location access. So once you have your app installed in the company, then we need to actually install it for the location. And interestingly, this is also not going to give us enough information or enough fields for us to use for us to add the authorization. So we'll need to do that through Postman. So let's just create a new request, HTTP, put in that URL, and then let's see what it needs. So it needs the version. So the version is going to be this, and then make sure it gets rid of that new line. And then the body is going to be, what's it look like? URL search params. What the fuck, dude? This is so weird. New. All right, how did we do it here? Location access. So it looks like the body is URL search params. Dude, this is like one of the weird things about the API too, is that this form has a different, the way they want you to send this is different from how they want you to send. It looks like it's that. Hopefully it works. Is how they want, is different from how you get the company access token. But regardless, we'll send in the company ID, which is going to be that. And then we'll also send in the location ID for the location where we want to get our access token. So we can come back to this one. Wait, did it just close that? But yeah, so then if we send this again, then let's just grab this ID and come back to this one, and location ID is going to be that. And then, all right, and you want to make sure you have the method right. I was trying to do get. It should be a post request. And then, like the API doesn't let you do, we need to add our bearer token. So we'll come back to this one and just copy this whole field, put that there, and hit send. And then that's going to give us all the access tokens that we need for each location, okay? And I'm going to show you, just so you can see kind of what this should look like when you're done. Holy shit, dude, typing is hard. Okay. So I'll just show you this. And essentially what we have is, not to dox these guys, but we have access tokens for all the companies. And then if we go to the locations, then we also have access token for each location. So every location, if we want to do something within that location, we use the access token from the location. And if we want to get information about the company or do something else, then we need the company access token. So essentially, that's like the install process. Hopefully that makes sense. Essentially, the hard part is just getting the access token and then refreshing everything. Now, the other thing I could show you, this video is already way longer than I thought it would be, but we can get the code from the URL bar and then like sign that person in and create them automatically. So let me just show you what I mean by that. If we go back to all apps, then I'm going to show you what my app looks like when you install it. So we'll go uninstall and we'll just uninstall it. And then when I refresh the page, it'll be uninstalled, and I'm going to hit install and allow. And what that does is it redirects me to an installation page. We can see we have the code in the URL bar. And what it's doing in the background is it's doing all those API calls I just showed you. It's like setting up the account, installing everything. And then at a certain point, once it's done, it's going to sign me in and then redirect me to the dashboard where I'm actually like already signed in. So you have to figure out how you want this to set up. I wanted people to be signed in like to their account automatically as soon as they install the app, but you could literally just get the request from the URL and then redirect them to like your website to sign in or whatever you want. The logic to sign them in as soon as they install the app is a little bit complicated because we're getting enough information to like know who the user is, and then we have to create a session for that user, and then once we get a response from the workflow that's happening in the background, then we have to like figure out who that user is, save that session to the cookies, and then sign them in and redirect them to the right page. So it's a little bit complicated. Like I said, you can kind of do it however you want, but that's just one way to set up your authentication flow. So what you would do to actually get it set up is you would come back to here and you would go https stiller.app /install, and you would just add whatever your actual installation URL is, and then it doesn't let you select it until you hit save. So then you would hit save and then select this new redirect URL, which means anyone who's redirected to that page. I use Google because you can pull the code out and do whatever you want to do your own. But yeah, and just so you know, this code that we used earlier is not going to work anymore. We're going to have to uninstall and reinstall the app if we want to test out that first step, getting access tokens. And just so you have it, let me just show you what the installation page looks like here. So essentially, I mean, all these status messages are kind of programmed in, but I also had AI write this page, so let's see if we can figure it out. Essentially, right up here, we're setting a variable, the code, which is if we're pulling that from the URL parameters. So it knows like, okay, code is up there, grab the code. And then if there is a code, then it's going to start the install. If there's no code, then it's going to return an error. And yeah, hopefully that answers your questions. I mean, that's really all there is to it. It just like pulls the code out and then it installs the app. Yeah, so we already got the access tokens. And then the next thing to do with an app. So my app is for call summaries. And essentially what we need to do is we need to know every time a phone call finishes in the account, and then we need to send that phone call to my app and like do things with it. Like we'll summarize it, we'll transcribe it, and then we'll send it back to the user as a note. So what we'll do is we'll come down to the webhook section, and we need a webhook URL where someone can basically, where high level can send all the events. So I actually have a edge functions. So for Supabase, I'm using edge functions, which is basically, it has a URL. So I have a endpoint called event receiver, and I'm using this. So on my other app, all the high level events go to this endpoint, and we get to select exactly what events we want to go to that endpoint. So what I do is message So phone calls are considered messages, so it would be inbound and outbound messages. So we'd want to turn those on. You could turn on literally all of them and then just filter for the ones you actually want to listen to. But yeah, and these are going to be grayed out if you haven't selected them as a permission, but I selected everything, so I can literally use every single webhook. And from this, you're able to see how much power you have to create an app. Like, you can literally create automations based on any of these events. You can create an automation based on outbound messages, which is not possible in the default high-level app. So it's not possible to know, like, when someone sends a text or makes a call to a number, it literally has to be like done through a custom integration. So that's why they're so powerful. So you select your endpoint, like kind of what you want to go on in the endpoint, and then high level will send all of that data to this endpoint. So we'll hit save, and then anytime like a phone call is complete or any of these things happen in any of my sub accounts, it's gonna send a an event to my endpoint. And I'll show you what that looks like. If you scroll down here, these are all the webhook events. So if we go like contact create, this is a sample payload. So it'll show you the location ID, which you'll need to make sure you can get the right access token. This is going to be the contact ID because this is a contact event. And then it'll show you all the other information that you need, like attachments, whatever, all the contact information. And you can do with that whatever you want. So like for me, we have inbound messages. Let me see if I can find inbound, outbound. I'll just go outbound message. These are the type of payloads I'm getting. So it'll tell me the type. So we'll see a phone call type, and then we'll see the contact ID and the location ID. And from location ID, I can get the company ID to charge the company for the call. And then we get message ID, and we also get attachments, which is the call recording URL. So yeah, that's the webhooks. Hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, essentially, once you have that, then we can go here and we can use this API endpoint to create a note in the contact section. So all we need is we would take that contact ID from the outbound message. We would put that here. We would put our bearer token from the location. So we would put bearer, and then we would put a space, and then we would put like location access token, okay? And then, and in the API, it asks for it twice. It's really weird. I would just look at a sample request because this is going to be a lot more accurate in terms of what you actually need. And then you can translate this into however you're sending your request. And yeah, that's essentially it. Let me see what else. So this video is way longer than I thought it would be. This is my longest video ever. And I'm getting pretty tired from talking. But that is the hard part of creating an app. It's getting the install, getting the access token, knowing how to refresh it, all this stuff. There's an easier way to do things though if you just want to create a personal integration. If we come to our agency settings and private integrations, then we can create a new app. I'm just going to call it that. So nice name. And then we can choose different scopes without having to do all the token refresh and all this other stuff that we were just talking about doing. So we don't have as many available scopes to us, but there's a few things. So we can just select some of these, and then we hit create, and it'll give us an access token. So this says it's API v2. So we should be able to do some of the things we were doing earlier. Another way to do this is if we head over to make.com, then they actually have a way to set this up in a new way. So we'll do create a new scenario, and then we'll do lead connector or go high level. Doesn't really matter. Both will come up. And I've already created my own integration, but we can do make an API call, and then we can choose. I've like created an integration. You just click add, and then it takes you to high level to sign in. And then you can use whatever URL you want and create a custom API call. So if all you want to do is automate something for your own account, Make might be the easier and potentially like the better way to do it. I don't like using Make, especially because it costs money and you don't know how many events you're going to need to handle. And especially for webhooks, I mean, if you're getting thousands of webhooks a day, like you're going to be paying a lot for Make, even though it's cheaper than Zapier. But regardless, if you just want to keep things super simple, you can use this pre-built integration, do a lot of the same API things through Make, and yeah, that's essentially the easiest way to set things up. So hopefully this video was helpful. I had a hell of a time setting up integrations for high level when I was getting started. I built an app, I made some money with it, but I'm retiring it. Again, you can watch that video. I'll try to link it or I'll put it after this as an end screen, just so you can see kind of what the thought process was behind it. I'm building something new, but it's not a direct high-level integration. So yeah, hopefully, you can let me know if you need any help, or if you want to pay me, or if you want to hire me, or you can just compete with me and give me good ideas, and I'll take your ideas and execute better. Or maybe not, or maybe you'll just crush me. I don't know. Who knows? So anyways, this video is long enough, and I'll see you in the next one.